Hello and welcome to this episode of Brian and Ethan's Biathlon podcast, the podcast that is just turning into the Scandinavian recap show. Ethan, right when we didn't think the biathlon could get any more exciting, we had week 4 in Hochfiltzen. What'd you think?
I feel like so much went down this weekend, and kind of feels like, in a way, every prediction we made in last week's episode just did not get close to happening. So
I mean,
a lot to talk about for sure.
that's the best part about biathlon is like if we knew what was going to happen, no one would watch, right?
Exactly.
All right, let's just jump right into it. First shot. Didier Bionaz from Italy. I'm going to start us off with another feel-good story. Didier is a 20-year-old Italian athlete who I think I saw on Reddit somewhere. He is the first athlete born in the 2000s to be in the top 20 on the World Cup, which is super exciting for the next crew of athletes. Do not fact check me on that. I have no idea if it's true. You know what? I heard it on the internet, so it must be true. But but no, it's really exciting to see such a young athlete, 20 years old, 40th in the sprint. I mean, right there. I mean, 20 years old, 40th in the sprint on the World Cup. Super exciting. But the thing is he had 2 misses, and then the next day he followed it up with a 19th in the pursuit, shooting 0-1-0-0. That's 95% if you're doing the math at home. Really impressive from the youngster.
Mm-hmm. And like you said before, like he's 20 years old, and to have that success is pretty crazy to see. And he's consistently been in the top 20 at youth world championships and has 2 top 10s on the IBU Cup. So obviously I've never heard of him before, but I feel like I can't say I didn't see this coming from him looking at his past results. So I think this was kind of not expected, but definitely something we could have been looking for from him for sure.
Yeah, and this is going to be a great addition to the Italian team, because I mean you have Lucas Hofer and Dominic Windisch, who are both veterans. They have what it takes to be on the podium. Unfortunately, they're not as not as consistent as we'd like to see, but they have what it takes. And I mean he's been on the World Cup this year since Contiolati and the relays. Italy was 5th in Contiolati, and then last week in Hochfiltzen they were 8th. So he's already made that team a lot stronger and a lot more consistent overall. So yeah, it'll be exciting to see where his career takes him.
Yeah, and I think the Italian relay team has been looking for at least one more person to kind of keep them up there in the race, and they haven't been able to find that. And hopefully Didier is that guy, and they can hopefully stay up there with the Norwegians and the Swedes and the French a little bit longer in the relay.
Let's make a prediction right here. In Johannes Tingesbo's very first World Cup race, I guess his first World Cup race was a relay, but other than that, his first individual World Cup races were Oslo, and he did a sprint pursuit back in 2012 and 13, and he came in 28th and 24th. Could Didier Bionaz, I can't pronounce it. Could he be the next Johannes Tingesbo? Your reactions right off the bat.
I think he definitely, just looking at the results, has the potential. I'm not sure if he has that factor that Johannes does on the skis to kind of blow everybody away, but we'll just have to see how he develops over the next few years and how he grows into racing on the World Cup.
Agreed. All right, next shot. Speaking of Johannes Tingesbo, he was not the most impressive Norwegian this weekend, but the Norwegian team in general absolutely crushed, sweeping both men's and women's sprints. And I did not see this coming at all. I really thought this was going to be the French domination after last weekend. Maybe not necessarily on the women's side, but at least on the men's side, the French team looked so good last week. And then Norway comes back with 1-4 in the sprint, 1-3 in the women's sprint, and then continue to have great results in the pursuit. holy crap, that was an impressive show of dominance.
Yeah, it was, and they all, at least on the men's race, the top three of them, the one like Ligrid, Dale, and Johannes Tingus, were all starting within 5 places of each other, 5 bibs. And I wonder if the Norwegian wax techs really nailed the wax for that specific time, because Samuelson shot clean and he was started at the end, and Fiamme and Jacqueline looked like they had one miss, which like pretty solid races for them. Like, but they were just way off the pace. Like Samuelson was 45 seconds back to Ligrid, who ended up winning the race by 7 seconds over Dale. And
Yeah, I did not see Legrid out skiing Samuelson by
yeah,
45 seconds. That's crazy. That's crazy.
and Dale to outski Samuelson too by a huge chunk is absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah, I mean, and then the women's side too. I mean, Tyrell Eckhoff is continuing her absolutely incredible shooting right now. Like, she had one miss in the sprint, and then I think she was clean in the pursuit. No, sorry, one miss in the pursuit as well. But that right there is like her shooting is probably at an all-time high, and it just is not relenting.
I know it feels like kind of like the story of the first few weeks was, is Eckhoff gonna ever kind of like shine this year because of her poor shooting she'd been having, and then I guess this week something must have clicked or changed, and she really figured it out.
So according to realbiathlon.com, her prone percentage is actually down, if you can believe that. Last year, her prone was 88.8%. This year, her prone is 81.4%. So she's actually lost 7% on her prone. But the most incredible thing is her standing, and this is where actually she has had some trouble in the past. I feel like Eckhoff is always one of those names who's always in it, but then she never really can follow through, and that's probably because she has poor standing shooting. Last year, her standing average was 77%, 77.5. This year, her standing percentage is 87%. So she's up a whole 10% in standing. And in a 4-stage race where you're shooting standing twice, that's a whole extra hit. That's a whole extra 25 to 30 seconds off of your time that you're not in the penalty loop. And yeah, that's bumped her shooting, her average shooting up by just about 1% over last year. So it's kind of weird to think that in general her shooting is not actually that much better than last year, but something about her going 95% in the pursuit, 90% in the sprint, like it just seems like she's never been able to do that before.
Mm-hmm. And she's doing it with faster shooting times too, which is kind of crazy to see. Like she's taken a full second off of her standing shooting, and in prone, she's taken. Well, I guess she doesn't take any time off her prone shooting, but to still increase her standing shooting percentages by 10% and increase the time is something that is, I think, heavily underestimated in what she's done this summer and coming into the season. I think it just took a little
Mm,
while for her to kind of get it in terms of racing on the World Cup. And now that she has
mm.
it, I wonder if she'll be able to keep it going throughout the rest of the year.
Yeah, and then I mean, look back at the 2017-18 season where her shooting average, this can't be right, 34.7%. Oh no, I'm sorry, that's that's shooting times. Okay, going back to the 2017-2018 season, her shooting times, she was averaging 34 seconds on average, and that's 37 seconds prone. And now this year she's 32 seconds, so she's taken 5 seconds off over the last 3 seasons, and she's taken like 3 seconds off in general. So yeah, she's shooting faster, she's shooting more accurately. Um,
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, she's skiing well.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it's I don't know. Like if she can keep this going, I almost feel like I like her over Royslin.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Royslin I think is more consistent, and like it's always just been about Eckhoff's inconsistency on the range that's really been hurting her. But if she can keep this going, I like her over Royslin because I think if it's a head-to-head matchup between Eckhoff and Royslin, I want to put my money on Eckhoff. Who do you think?
I totally agree. At least going off of this past week, it kind of feels like they've swapped roles a little bit, where Royslin's been a little inconsistent on the range with 4 misses in the pursuit after she had finished third in the sprint. So she was set up for success, but couldn't quite hang with it. So I think I'd put my money on Eckhoff going into the new year for sure.
Yeah. And I mean, in this great performance this weekend, jumped Eckhoff all the way up to third place overall. Roysland obviously having some podium results and staying within that top five, and also staying ahead of Hannah Oberg, which is, really important for her. She's still maintaining that yellow bib spot. And we'll talk more about this in a minute. But, Eckhoff with a great week jumped up into third place. And unfortunately, Elin Bakava like plummeted from third down
Mm-hmm.
to fifth place with just, I mean, I want to say terrible results. If it was an American athlete and she's in the 20s and 30s, I'd be like, hey, it's a pretty good day. But for someone who's been consistently in the top 10 every single race, and then all of a sudden having results in the 30s, 20s and 30s, that does not help the fight for the overall. Like, you need to be at a minimum in the top 10 every race. And Elin Bakava from Belarus dropped back a little bit. But staying with the Norwegian crowd, one person I do want to mention is Ingrid Tandervold. I personally really like her as a skier. I think she has a lot of fight and a lot of grittiness to her style that personally I like. I'd like to see that a lot more from especially like the junior crowd. I don't know, just something about her style is very competitive to me, and I want to see that grittiness out of more of my athletes.
Mm-hmm. She seems like she's always giving it everything she has, no matter how the race is going. And it seems like every time she leaves the range for the last lap, it's almost as if she's always fighting for the win or for that podium spot.
Mhm.
And her ski times have been trending up and up for the past few years, which is really encouraging to see.
Yeah.
And obviously, she's training with Eckhoff and Roysland every single day. Like, you'd expect her to pick up a few things here and there from them, and
Mhm.
hopefully, she can keep it going.
Yeah, and I mean, with her shooting percentage has also been going up, especially in the standing shooting. So she was second in the sprint, fourth in the pursuit, and then she ended up falling a little bit back to 12th in the mass start with 3 misses. It's kind of hard to overcome that in the mass start. But no, what a great weekend for Tandervold as well. And like you said, having great training partners with Eckhoff and Roysland. I feel like she's the one that we should be watching long term on the Norwegian team.
Mm-hmm. And she's 24. Like, she's the same age as Ilin Bakava, who we were almost blown away with her results the past 2 weeks. It feels like Tandervold has always, at least for the past 3-4 years, has always been on the World Cup, competing for top 10s, top 20s, top 15s, and consistently in the mass starts. And it feels like we kind of missed that period where she was younger, breaking in. But hopefully, she has a bright future ahead of her, and she can learn a lot, like you said, from Eckhoff and Roysland going through into the next generation of biathletes.
I mean, we're talking about the overall right now. There was a huge shakeup in the overall right now, and I almost find myself watching for both the men and the women. Like, I'm looking at those people who are in second, third, and fourth on the overall, and I'm just hoping that they will be ahead of whoever's in first. So right now in first, we had Roysland and Johannes Tingesbo, both extremely good athletes and had good weekends. But at least for the men's, I'm always looking at Sebastian Samuelson and just being like, hey, like, come on, get ahead of Bo, just get a few points back. If you can keep chipping away with some points. And it's actually the same thing with Hannah Oberg and Elvira Oberg and even Alim Bakava. I'm like, I feel like I don't know why, but I always kind of favor the Western European nations, maybe because it's the English speaking barrier or what. But I've been even cheering for Aline Bakava. I'd love to see her challenge for that yellow bib, just because I think it's exciting when you get so many people so close fighting for the overall. But Roysland and Johannes Tingesbauer were able to keep their bibs this week. So, but there was a little bit of a shakeup.
And it feels like this is, in a sense, one of the first years where it's, at least on the men's side, one of the first years where it's fairly close with Fourcade not there. In the past few years, it's been Johannes Fourcade kind of duking it out on the top, and before Johannes was at that level, it was just Fourcade up there by himself. And now it's really interesting to see, like you said, like Samuelson, Ligrid, Dale, and Jacqueline like fighting it out with Johannes every single race, knowing that they have a chance to chip a few points back every single time they get out there on the
Mm.
course. And on the women's side, it's still a really tight race. I don't think anyone is safe in the place that they're at. I think they all, like in the men's side, all realize that they have a chance at that yellow bib, and they're all hoping to get their hands on it as soon as they can.
Yeah. I know if you look at Dorothea Veer's trajectory, she's definitely, she started off pretty slow, but she's definitely on the come up right now, and she gained some spots this week, and she's obviously a contender, having won the yellow bib in the
Mm-hmm.
past. You expect her to start getting up there and be in the fight. Eckhoff's trajectory has been skyrocketing since the first week of Hochfiltzen. Tandervold's ranked eighth overall.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like she's even in the fight. I mean, she's got 271 points. Royslin has 415. So Royslin almost has doubled Tandervold's total, but I still feel like Tandervold's in the fight for the yellow bib. And I mean, hey,
Mm-hmm.
we're only a quarter of the way through the season, or even a third of the way through the season, so there's plenty of season left to go. And if one of these, Doro or Preuss, actually, that was one that I found who was, I found myself really cheering for Preuss this week because I
Mm-hmm.
want to see her jump in there and get in the fight too. Even Denise Herman, I mean, I feel like we haven't seen much from her this year. Like she's obviously one of the fastest skiers on the circuit, and
Mm-hmm.
if she can get some better hit percentages, then she's going to be, I would almost say if it came down to, skiing, she's going to be the one to fight with. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
Herman's been having a pretty terrible year on the range right now, which, I mean, I say that, you look at, she had 2 penalties in the mass start, 2 penalties in the pursuit, 3 penalties in the sprint. Like, twos and threes, like that's not too bad, but when you're fighting for the overall, you need those to be ones and zeros.
Mm-hmm.
And like 2 misses on a day, even in a 4-stage race, that's not gonna, you're not gonna be able to win with that. So she's got to get those down to ones and zeros. But um, yeah, even Denise Herman, I feel like, is still in the hunt. She's like down in like ninth, 10th place. So yeah, for the women, it's gonna be super exciting.
And all it takes is one really good race from someone and some bad races from other people, and there you go. Now they've moved up like 4 or 5 places.
Right, and a great example of that is Legrid this week. I mean, he
Mm-hmm.
won the sprint, won the pursuit, and then did very well in the mass start. And boom, he jumped from the start of the week. He was down in like fourth place, and then by the end of the week, he's in second place and actually has a pretty decent lead over Samuelson now. He's got like a solid 30-point lead over Samuelson. So um, yeah, it's going to be, I think, now that we're a quarter of the way or a third of the way through the season, I think it's going to be a little bit more um, flattened out now. I don't think we're going to see these crazy jumps as much anymore. Because I mean, in the beginning of the season, you always see these crazy jumps where someone might win the first race and then do poorly the next race, leg grid, and then fall back pretty far in the standings. But then, yeah, you come
Mm-hmm.
back with another 2 wins, and boom, now you're back in second. So.
Mm-hmm. Do you think Ligrid will be able to hold on to where he's at right now and continue to battle with Johannes for the overall?
So he really actually surprises me because I do not, I don't consider him a fast skier. Like, I don't,
Mm-hmm.
I think he's a good shooter. He'll do well in the individuals, get some really good points in the individuals, and he's a solid teammate on the relays because that's what you need in the relays is you can't be using spare rounds and you definitely cannot be in the penalty loop.
Mm-hmm.
But I still do not see him as a fast skier. That being said, he crushed Samuelson in the sprint
Yeah.
where they both shot clean and he was up 40 seconds on him. He held his own against the French guys in the pursuits and the mass starts. Like, I don't know. I just don't have enough data on him right now to make a call. I don't have enough of a representation because I think through the first 3 weekends, we saw exactly what we expected. I guess maybe we didn't expect him the first race of the season to win, but we established that he was a good shooter and like I'd say a 90% skier, and that's what he's done. He's continued to shoot well, He's continued to post like, top 15 ski times, which are keeping him competitive, but that wasn't enough to do well in the sprints and mass starts and pursuits and stuff.
Mhm.
But then, yeah, out of nowhere this weekend, he crushed and he won the sprint. He won the pursuit. So I don't know. And one thing we also have to mention too with the men's side is Johannes Tingus Bo. How does he keep? How is he still this far ahead? How is he pulling away? He just does not. He still does not seem dominant. He keeps being shaky on the range, having misses, not blowing anyone away on the ski tracks at all. I mean, I guess in the sprint he did have two misses and still ended up coming in third.
Mhm.
But I don't know. I don't. I'm not comfortable with him. He's not, to me, he's not seeming like someone who should be leading the overall.
Yeah, and he doesn't feel like he's confident in himself when he gets onto the range. Almost in a way, it looks like he's questioning what he's doing and doesn't kind of have the self belief that we've seen from him in the past few years. And like his everything is down. His hit percentage is down. His ski speed is down. His shooting time is down. And like, granted, like all of those were at the tippy top tier coming into the season.
Mm-hmm.
And for those to all of them to be kind of falling down, I'm sure he has to be wondering what is going on. And hopefully he can take this break period for the holidays to kind of recenter, refocus, and come back.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's yeah, like you said, I don't feel the confidence from him. Like
Mm-hmm.
there was a time last year when he was battling for COD and actually over the last couple of years where you could almost guarantee that he was going to perform at a really high level. And if maybe something happened in the range and he had to ski his way out of a hole, you
Mm-hmm.
almost like expected that he could do it. Um, and going back to my theory that he's choking against the young guys, who got out sprinted by Emilian Jacquelin again this weekend, Johannes Tingesbo. And I mean Jacquelin's move on the last hill in the pursuit when
Mm-hmm.
he just turned it on and pulled away from Bo on that hill. Oh, beautiful to watch. It's a coach's dream. It's a fan's dream to see someone throw down like that. And but no, like years past, Johannes Tingesbo is the one doing that. Johannes Tingesbo is the one pulling away and making people hurt on the last hill. And
Mm-hmm.
now these young guys are doing it to him. So
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. We'll see. I'm hoping maybe after the break we'll see more of that Bo that we're used to, and he's gonna just his rankings are just gonna skyrocket. But right now, after the first third of the season, he's almost like he's. I feel like he's hanging on to his lead by a thread. I feel like
Mm-hmm.
he's on the verge of losing it.
Yeah, I feel like it's going to take, if he has one more week like he did in Hochfiltzen this last week. I don't think he comes out of it with the yellow bib. Like if Ligrade continues to have success and if Samuelson can kind of get back to where he was at the start of the season, I'm not confident in the fact that Johannes Singesbo is going to keep the yellow bib for another week.
I I honestly believe the only reason Bo is in first place right now is because every other person is inconsistent. If we can
Mm-hmm.
find that one person, maybe it is going to be Legrid, and he is going to be the consistent one. If someone else can just like bring it all together and be consistent, he's going to lose it immediately.
Mm-hmm.
Because Sebastian, really fast skiing and fast shooting in Contilati, he sort of cooled off on the ski tracks a little bit since going to Hochfiltzen. Fialmaye, terrible start in Contilati. Now he's back, and I like Fialmaye personally, but I think I don't know if he's going to be that guy to pop into second and try to challenge for the overall. Um, I don't see um, I don't see any of the other Swedes being able to do that. Simon Eder's too old; he was not going to ski fast enough to challenge.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I don't think Johannes Dahle either is going to be. He's going to be that one. I think he's going to be a more of a streaky guy who has good weekends, bad weekends.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then Jacqueline and Cloud, they're the only ones that I can think of that might be able to challenge for the overall. But even those guys are pretty young, and I don't see them being able to be consistent for the
Mm-hmm.
duration. So, yeah, I really believe the only thing that's keeping Bo and first place right now is everyone else's inconsistency. Because while Bo keeps having issues on the range and getting outkicked by the young guns, he's still in the top 5. Where everyone else is top 5 one weekend and then in the 15s the next weekend, and you can't be that inconsistent if you want to win the overall. You got to be top 5, and maybe a bad race is like 10th or 11th place. So yeah, I don't know. We'll see what happens.
Yeah.
All right. Speaking of consistent, good performance, Emma Lunder and Clare Egan, our North American girls, they're doing well. I know Claire kind of got off to a slow start in Kontiolahti, but she definitely came back with some good results in Hochfiltzen. Emma Lunder has been consistent throughout the board. It's been really exciting to see, these North American girls doing well.
And in an interview, Claire mentioned that the tracks in Hochfiltzen really suited to how she liked to ski, and she felt that she was able to really ski as hard as she possibly could and then feel comfortable and confident coming into the range as she was getting hit the targets. And it seems like she did that. Like, she was posting really fast ski times, and then had one or two stages that didn't quite go her way on the range, but everything else looks like it's really come together, and like her results are trending up immensely coming from Kontiolahti to Hochfilzen, which is awesome to see. And then Emma Lunder is kind of just steady Eddie, just consistently in the top 20s, top 15s, just chipping away closer and closer to the overall.
Yeah, absolutely. And I really think that Claire, this is where I kind of expected Claire to be, in like the 10 to 20 range. She had such a good summer at the Martin Fourcade Roller Ski Festival. She looked so competitive against the other big names that were there, and there were some big names there. I really thought that she was going to be a more consistent 10 to 20 athlete. I was a little disappointed the first weekends where she was back a little bit, but I think I'm really hoping that this is where she ends up, and now we see her more. I don't think she'll be top 10 every race, but I do think that we'll see her more in the the 10 to 20 range. And if that's where she can stay, then the overall is gonna be probably a career high for Claire if she can stay there. Her skiing speed is pretty consistent with how it's been the last couple of years. So it's not like she made this like absurd jump from one year to the next. Her shooting times are maybe a little bit faster in the prone, but pretty consistent overall. And actually, her hit rate is actually down in the prone, but it's way up in the standing. I mean, unfortunately, that didn't help in the mass start when she had 3 misses in her first standing. But but no, she, her hit percentages are in general up. Her ski speed is in general a little bit up, and her shooting times are in general a little bit up. So maybe this is the year where it all just comes together for Claire, and everything just sort of, clicks. She has a good shooting day, a good shooting times, and good ski speed all on the same day, and that's what you need to be in the top 10. So I think this is the season where she kind of gets more consistent. And then going back to Emma Lunder, I mean, Emma Lunder, that's the one who's really up right now. I mean, compared to the last couple of years, we already talked about her a little bit in the last couple of weeks, in the last couple of podcasts, but I mean, her total percentage is at 91% hit rate. That's really high. That's really good. I mean, she's demonstrated really good shooting in the past, but over the last 2 years, it's been down. But now she's back up to 91 average. Standing is 93, prone 90. So that's really good. Ski speed is not too much higher than it has been, but it's really competitive. And her shooting times are pretty similar as well. So maybe it's just one of those years where these girls finally have the experience, and it's just all tying in together. You know what I mean? It's like someone can have really good potential and really good skill, but it's not until they get that really good experience and they're able to sort of develop a rhythm and a groove and a routine and feel comfortable in the World Cup. And hopefully this is the season where both Claire and Emma Lunder finally kind of let that click and fall into place.
And Emma Lunder is 29 and Clare is 33. So they've definitely had that time and opportunity to get the experience that we've been talking about in the World Cup. Like Emma Lunder's had multiple top tens in her career, and so has Clare. And I wonder if this season, in their heads, it's all coming together and they're able to remember what those races were like, what they did in those races, and then be able to make that happen every single weekend.
So real quick, you can't say anyone in the top 3.
Okay.
Who out of the top 3, men and women, is going to make the push for the overall? Who's going to come back from this Christmas break and just be on top of the world and skyrocket up to that overall podium? Let's start with the women.
Outside of the top 3?
Outside of the top 3, I'll remind you who the names are. We got Oiberg, Olimpikova, Doro, Franziska Preuss, Tandervold, Herman, and then in 10th place, Caroline Knotten from Norway, who we haven't talked much about, but she's having a good season. So who out of the top 3 is going to come back from Christmas break and just start pushing for the overall win?
I mean, last week when we did our predictions for the mass start and who would kind of rise in that, I put my money on Preuss, but she didn't really perform to the expectations I had. But I think I'm gonna stick with her. I think she had a lot of promise and good things happen so far this season, and I think she'll be able to kind of fall back on that and stick with it throughout the rest of the season. But I really don't know.
I'm gonna actually go with Doro because I feel like we just haven't seen the real Doro this year, and we got glimpses of it this week, but I still feel like we haven't seen the true Doro. So if anyone comes back from Christmas and is just able to attack and really climb their way up the standings and try to fight that overall, I think it's going to be Doro. But all right, what about the men? And starting from 4th place, we have Johannes Dahle, Quentin Fiolmaye, Emilian Jacqueline, Tarjei Bo, Vetle Christensen, Martin Ponsloma, and Jakov Fak on 10th place. Who do you think? Who do you think is going to come back from break and just crush?
I like to think that the French are going to be able to come back and crush, but they didn't quite start the season so hot, and then they had a really good peak this first week of Hochfiltzen, and then couldn't back it up another week. I'm gonna have to put my money on Christensen. I think I don't remember if it was this past season or the season before, but Christensen kind of was where he's at right now, like the top 10, but not really quite up there, and then had some really, really good results, like beating Johannes Bo in a race here and there, I believe, and then skyrocketed up to 2nd or 3rd in the overalls. I think he has a good chance.
Yeah, I mean, Christensen's, all his stats are up. Hit rate is up. Ski speed is way up compared to the other people in the top 10. So, I mean, everything's pointing that Christensen should be doing better than he is. Maybe it's just really poorly, when he does have his misses, they're just really poorly timed, maybe. But yeah, I don't know. I think I want to go with Fiolmaye. I think there's something about him that I just like that I think Jacqueline is exciting because he's a little cocky, and I mean that's always good for TV. Tarjei Bo is a great guy. Love watching him race, but I want to go with Fiolmaye. I just think he's a really solid all-rounder type dude. Good skiing, kind of like a little skinny, scrawny guy, but he looks fast on his skis. So I'm gonna go with Fiolmaye, and I don't know. I just feel like to be a fighter for the overall, you need to have like one of those weekends where you can just win all 3 races and get some super good points. I don't even know if he's that guy, but I do feel comfortable. I do feel confident that he can be like a weekend where he can be on the podium all 3 races and get some good points that way. So I don't think he's going to come back from break and then just skyrocket up to 1st place. But I feel like by the end of the season, all of a sudden we're going to be like, oh, damn, Fiolmaye came in 3rd or 2nd overall. So, so that's my prediction.
Nice.
All right. Any last words? Thank you guys all for subscribing and following our podcast. We've gotten great feedback. Wish you wish you all a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. Ethan, anything to say?
Yeah, thank you guys for all the support, and I hope you guys have a happy and safe holidays.
Yeah, we'll see what happens over the off week. We might have an episode. Maybe we won't. Maybe we'll see you after the first week in Oberhof. But
Mhm.
yeah, thank you all for supporting us through this first trimester of the season, and we're hoping to get more out for you guys.